Hi, I want to talk about what the fifth and sixth shadow functions do, how you experience them, and how they are going to impact your life in ways that you can notice or point to and analyze and understand through this methodology. Okay, so your fifth function is your negating function, which means that whatever your dominant function is, it's the opposite orientation of that. So for me, I'm NE. That means my fifth function is NI. Keeping in mind that it's not really a function I have or use at all. And I think the reason for that is you think about functions as filling certain ecological niches, then obviously if you have another carnivore that's more effectively eating the same food, then the weaker one is going to not make it. Well, that's what happens with NE and NI is it's not possible for them both to coexist and for you to understand truth in the same mechanism. Because please remember, intuition is fundamentally your understanding of truth. If you have extroverted intuition, you are asking yourself, you believe truth is created if you have extroverted intuition. Anywhere in your stack, wherever it is. If you have introverted intuition, anywhere in your stack, you believe truth is discovered. And you may not consciously, actively be thinking these words to yourself. You may not have really ever thought about it before. But I think if you reflect, you'll find that if you are NI, you fundamentally understand truth as something out there to be found out and discovered, right? We make our own truths. Really, we do. I mean, basically, that's the difference. Don't get me wrong, NI truths are badass. I like them. Anyway, so fifth function is your negating function, which means you won't be able to understand what it is. You won't be able to notice it. When people talk about it, you won't know what they're talking about. It won't make any sense to you. And nothing we can do about it. It's not going to make any sense to you. I can explain introverted intuition quite well at this point, but it doesn't mean I can intuit what it means. It doesn't mean that I can demonstrate it. It doesn't mean that I can experience it even. I don't think I can. I don't think I'm capable of it. You can't understand truth as you can't operate at the world. You can't come at the world from the fundamental perspective of truth being made and truth being discovered simultaneously. It's one or the other. They really are not sharing ground. Alright, so that's your fifth function. It's the negating function. If you don't get it, you don't understand it, you don't seem to think about it much, it doesn't really have a lot of resonance with you, it's because it's your fifth function. What's its practical impact in your life? You're going to find individual people who lead with that dominant function are going to be very attractive to you. You're going to want to be around them, be friends with them, or more if it's if it's your preferred whatever. And you are going to trust those people, and if those people betray you, you're going to be very gullible with them. But they probably won't, hopefully. I have no idea if that's true or not. I don't know why they would. I was just thinking about me, and my NIs probably wouldn't. I don't know about other ones. So, that's your fifth. Your sixth function is the interesting one that I really has got me thinking a lot. And it's an area where you can peel back a bit and you can see how the cognitive function thing works. You can really feel it and understand it well with the sixth function, your sixth shadow function, because your sixth shadow function is going to be something you do and experience, and in other words, you're going to behave as though you were from that perspective, but you're sort of going to remain unaware of being from that perspective, and you're not going to frame what you're doing in that perspective. So, an example to clarify. TE is my sixth, extroverted thinking. It's an organizational thing where you're directing other people, getting them to run a certain program or system or whatever. I do it all the time at work. But I never talk about it like that. If you were to ask me, well, what makes your program tick? I wouldn't say it's moving people around. But the other thing I would say is, I've read this and I believe this to be true, it resonates with me, that you feel very accomplished when you do achieve in that area and you feel good about it. I do. I feel good about being, successfully the boss when I am. So that's an interesting thing about the sixth shadow function. Seventh shadow function, the enemy. So if you are like me and you have FE in the third slot, then your seventh function will be FI. And you will find it somewhat offensive. Like, you're going to naturally want to reject that way of doing things as wrong. Similarly, I'm sure if you have FI versus FE, an FI person is likely going to see an FE person as fake, as doing things for the wrong reasons, as somehow by existing in just kind of violation of their basic principles. Like, why are you so unconcerned about your own feelings and worried about what everybody else thinks? That's probably what the FI person is going to think about FE. So, in other words, we're not going to like each other. Not necessarily the people. The people will likely get along just fine until they have a dispute over metaphor, which is to say, until they disagree about something and FI starts in with her justifications that have to do with somebody's feelings or her own feelings, and then TI goes, no, that's not a good reason to do that. Here's reasons why you're wrong. Well, that's all it is. That's all that conflict is FI going, here's how I justify the conclusions my intuition has reached. And then TI goes, no, well, here's how I justify the conclusions my intuition has reached. And I think that our intuition is, whatever slot it's in, is irrevocably tied to our higher in the stack, what MBTI calls a judging function, T or F. Okay. So the eighth cognitive function, what is that one? Well, the eighth cognitive function is something that you're going to do all the time as well, like the sixth, except you're going to understand it less well. You don't really know what it is. Apparently you're doing it, but you sort of don't really know what that means. For me, it's SE. I think it means like sports stuff, but it's more than that. It's a relationship with the objects around you is what it is. If you have high SE, you're gonna want that fast car. You're gonna want those cool things, those gear. You want gear. If you have SE up in the front. Now, if you do have SE in the front, you've got NI in the back. You're a perceiver. So, if you have SE in the front, NI in the back, well, then you're going to have SI as your first shadow function. You're not going to notice it. You're not going to know what it means to consider yourself as a agent in time. And you're going to have, it depends what you have in the seventh and sixth and seventh, but in the eighth slot, you're going to have NE, which means you're going to do a lot of extroverted intuiting. You're going to see the possibilities. You're going to see what's not there. But you're not going to interpret it as that, and you're going to have a hard time metacogniting about it. Like, oh, this is what I'm doing. So the shadow functions, they are our relationship to functions not our own, and that relationship is driven by how the two functions interact with each other. So if they are contradictory functions, like FI and NE, like SI and SI and TE? No, SI and NI. Wait, I don't remember. I have to look at the paper. But regardless, be aware of that. Okay? So shadow functions. Fifth, don't even think about it. Not even bother worth thinking about it. You're not going to get anywhere with it. Seventh, remember, even though it seems crazy, even though they seem crazy, their point position is just as valid as anybody else's. and 8th and 6th. Find out, think about your 6th function, think about the ways in which you actually do it, but don't frame it in that term, and then I think you'll discover that there's a lot of progress to be made in the 6th function. All right, thanks for watching Talk to the Science People, and this has been a little show about the shadow functions.